Hello, family. Thank you for dropping by another episode of Epic Understanding. And this is a very special episode because we're jumping on right after our interview over at Kermit and Friends. Chief Blair was hanging out with the folks over there, Andy, Dick, and Elisa, Jordana, and it was really great. So, what's going to happen now is we're going to pick up questions. So please do uh, give us your question. But what I want to know from you, Chief, how did you like your interview over there?
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of
Very,
fun.
very. Well, you know what? Hold on, I don't like my volume there for you. Hold on.
That's fine.
Is it better?
I'm good anyway. I'm good
Okay.
anyway. You're good.
No, it was different. I've never done an interview like that, but it was very cool. The host was very cool, very cordial, very nice.
Well, she's gorgeous for one, right?
Asked thoughtful questions. Well, that too. But it was, yeah, no, it was different. It was interesting. So now I've gotten to experience Kermit and Friends. So
Yeah. And Andy, you know what? I thought it was very interesting that Andy Dick calls the police every day.
but I'm old enough to remember Andy Dick, right? And that does not surprise me at all.
Oh
Not
my,
a bit.
wait. When you said that you were old enough to remember him, I was like, oh my God, he just told Andy he was old.
No, no, that's not what I meant. But I'm sure there's a whole bunch of young people who would have to go and look him up to see who he is. I don't. That's what I
Okay, so where do you remember Andy from?
from TV.
Yeah, is there a particular show? I mean, I know he's really famous, but where do you remember?
No, yeah, he was on a whole bunch of different stuff. Just sometimes some off color, goofy stuff. I think he might even been on Saturday Night Live once or twice. Not as a regular, but yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. People in my age group know who Andy Dick is.
Okay, well, that's cool. Now, when you left, the conversation kept going. First of all, everybody thought you were so nice, which is true. You're very, very
Well,
nice.
I
It's
appreciate that.
incredible. It's incredible how nice you are. And then the someone said that they were scared to really ask you about bad cops, but I said that you actually have a plan when it comes to bad cops. As a matter of fact, we talked about that before.
Yeah, I mean, we did, and the key is to try and head that off right at the outset, right? And so
Hmm.
how you screen and whom you hire matter.
Hmm.
Most people don't become 15 or 20-year problems vested in the union, and then you can't do anything with them. Or
Okay.
what you do is limited, unfortunately. As an administrator, it can be. And so the best way to combat that is to, and me, have a selection process that helps you ferret out those folks that aren't going to do well 5, 10, 15 years down the line. Because I don't care who you ask, this job changes us. It changes our personalities and our temperaments, and we have to manage that. You're not
Hmm.
a person after doing this job for 10, 15, 20 years that you were when you first went in. You see and experience too much of the underside, the underbelly, if you will, of people in all different phases of humanity. And something's wrong with you if you're not affected by that. And so any cop that tells you he or she hasn't come home from a shift and cried like a baby because of what they witnessed that day is probably lying,
Hmm. Hmm.
or either should be doing something else.
I mean, you do have to have some compassion. I want to give a shout out to Queen T. Queen T, actually, she is amazing. She's going to be coming up on one of my Sunday shows, so stay tuned for her. But so if you have any questions out there, let us know. But I'm going to talk about a question that I had because you talked about Breonna Taylor. And you talked about getting no knock warrants and the process of getting a no-knock warrant, and that the standard for getting one is really high. What I wanted to know is, how come the standard did not include making sure that the person lives there? Because the person that they were looking for didn't even live there.
Right, but we're doing simultaneous warrants, and again, this is what I know, so I can speak to this. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they were doing, I think, 3 warrants simultaneously, all involving this same person. So it doesn't matter if the person lives there or not.
Mm-hmm.
It matters if you can prove that there's been something nefarious that has gone on there, and that you are you are going to be looking for something specific, um, to bolster that case, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to outline the reasons why. You can't just say, "Oh, well, this person that we're looking for knows somebody who lives there." That's not going to do it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
enough
Mm-hmm.
to get a judge to sign a warrant, let alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I would have loved would have been for the warrant affidavit, which is basically the application, that the officer has to put forward to the judge to get the warrant signed. I would have loved for that to have been made public. I know in this,
Mm.
after 10 days after you execute a warrant, it's got to be filed so that the public can access it. And so I would
Okay.
have seen the affidavit to see why, or what information or evidence they had, that granted them a warrant. Because at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
people like how it was done or not, a judge did sign that search warrant affidavit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they had something.
You know what? So I definitely think they had something. I just don't know if they had the right something. That
Well, that's what the affidavit would tell us. We don't know,
Yeah.
but here I'm gonna disagree with you just a little bit. Clearly, they
Mm-hmm.
had to write something, or the warrant wouldn't have been signed. Now, what that is what we would all like to know. We would all like to see what that was, but they had enough to get it signed.
And so I think this is the separation of what we accept to be true. Because when you say clearly they had to write something or else it wouldn't have been signed, I pull back from that because what I understand about police department judges, um, and prosecuting attorneys is that they have a insular relationship, that it's very relational. Now sometimes that's really good because you need to get things done, but sometimes that's very bad because you want to get things done easily. And people are people, and what I know for sure, not because I'm just guessing, because I actually know for sure, is that corners get shaved. And in when it comes to the law and corners get shaved, people really get hurt. Um, I'll tell you, this was a 2020 video, and I replayed it on one of the shows. And we really broke a lot of stuff down, but it involves a cop, and it was so meaningful. It's a cop, and he is wrestling with the idea of should he give another cop who's drunk driving a ticket. Okay, he's vacillating back and forth, and it's all on camera, and he's struggling with this so much because the other guy is a cop, and if he gives him a ticket, he is going to receive pain. He's afraid that the other cops are going to retaliate against him in a number of ways. And at the same time, he's very concerned um, about doing his duty. And he literally doesn't know which way to go. So then he calls his boss in. He calls and I think it's the sergeant for the night or whatever. And the sergeant just says, "Man, I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to tell you." And everything's caught on camera, so now they can't get rid of it. Okay. I think that is the pressure that so many cops feel. You know, there is a meaningful and powerful, I'm going to even say necessary thing of the blue brotherhood. However, they don't always make the right decision when it comes to uh, honor and loyalty. They just don't.
Oh, and because again, we take our personnel from the human race, and the only difference I think between us and the general public is the consequences, excuse me, can be much more dire when we do vacillate or if we do get it wrong. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there were bad intentions or that we are all just willing to hold the line no matter what. I can tell you part of the new way of thinking about situations like that. And here's the other part. It's so there aren't a lot of national standards for us, right? And I heard Commissioner Broughton say this morning on CBS.
Yeah, yeah.
I did watch that. You had sent me a message, but I had already watched it. There's not a lot of national standards for us, right? 18
Hmm.
law enforcement agencies in America, and state laws are state laws, and so people talk about best practices and that. I say all that to say this. um, every culture, and this came up with Kermit and Friends, every PD has its own culture, right? Just like any other organization. But what I hear now, the new narrative is, and it's one that I made sure that I put forward when I was working the streets is, you know, the ire should go towards the cop who put the other one on duty in the position to have to make that decision. Why
Hmm.
you do this? You bid on the other end of this transaction. Why would you put me in that position? So how bad should I feel? Yeah, I probably feel pretty bad, but not bad enough to lose my job over you.
Hmm.
Okay. Uh,
Hmm.
and the same goes with, I'd be lying if I tell you that everybody I arrested that had liquor on their breath and might have been a tad bit over, not they didn't all get arrested.
Hmm. Hmm.
They didn't for a variety
Hmm.
of reasons. I didn't stop you for your driving behavior. I stopped you because your tail lights out, and now I can
Hmm.
smell liquor in the car. And
No,
so,
this cop was really, really drunk. I mean,
right,
really.
right. When it's obvious, but I can tell you, we've been in all kinds of different positions now. To go back towards to the warrant business, you have to think about this. Um, yep, corners get cut, sadly enough. But boy, I'm telling you, I have written more search warrant affidavits than I can think of, and
Hmm.
you got to be right, and you have to be specific. You can't come in with generalizations, and then if you are that one who fabricates
Hmm.
or who exaggerates or flat out makes stuff up, you got to
Hmm.
losing your job is the least of your worries. You're going to be prosecuted for that. So,
Well, I would say that that could be true, but this is what I want to talk about. Sometimes sometimes it's not true. For instance, prosecuting attorneys have the ability to call a grand jury, they um, or they can just say we're going to bring charges. Okay, and when there's a high profile case, they'll say, oh, we're going to assembly a grand jury, and which is the Breonna Taylor case. But later we found out that he didn't even ask for charges for the killing of Breonna Taylor. And it's, well, I don't know if it's well known, but for me, I'm aware that you can really get in a grand jury to indict a paper bag. Getting a grand jury is not hard to get somebody indicted. And so when a grand jury doesn't indict, it's kind of because they didn't the attorney general or the prosecutor did not want that person indicted, because it's just to let you investigate it further. You know, it doesn't mean the person's, we just want to see what's there. Kind
Well, again, in different states is different. I don't know the laws of Kentucky, honestly. I do know this in the state of Minnesota. Um, in order to have a first degree murder charge, you have to convene a grand jury. I don't know if that's the case in other states.
Mm-hmm.
For
Mm-hmm.
here.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair.
If and so it's more than just a whimsical or capricious reason why an attorney general,
Mm-hmm.
district attorney would convene a grand jury. It's for us. It's the law, depending on what you want to charge somebody with. And there's been some hand wringing over that. Some folks don't like that necessarily. They want to see it farmed out away from district attorneys, but that's a whole nother discussion. But I watched the attorney general from Kentucky. I watched his press conference afterwards, and I don't think it's clear he didn't indict anybody. He didn't think he had anything to indict him for. Otherwise, he would have. But that's, we'd have to ask him. I can't speak intelligently on all the detail. I have to go by what I saw.
Okay. Now, Sigmund's here. He's on SoundCloud. I don't even know what that is. What is that, Sigmund?
Well, it's a music format where you can put up your albums, like I recorded with a guy, and we put all of our music up on SoundCloud. And I mean, just as long as we've gone this far. So in our case, it's soundcloud.com/Wappy and Sigmund, which is our page with our 5 albums and some skit singles, like some funny stuff too, like skits.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Now, Sigmund, I know you ask tough questions, but I don't know which direction they're going to come from. I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the right.
Okay, Chief.
I'm here.
Here's Sigmund. Go.
Yeah.
What's your question, Sigmund?
Hi, Chief. Okay, well, the basis of this show is to talk about what the police can do to take care of all the problems and everything. But those riots last year were so bad and they seemed so abnormal. I mean, like, we never had anything weird, like, it seems so staged. And I guess you can't explain or give an opinion on why all this stuff happened. Like, who put them up to these riots? It's just only your job to try to defend against them. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay.
I think the chief is in a really bad position when it comes to riots in the first place. I mean, because who wants riots? I don't know anybody who wants riots. In that particular situation, everybody is in danger. Everybody is in danger. The people in the neighborhood is in danger. The cops are in danger. The people who are out protesting are in danger. And then you have what I'm going to call the troublemakers, which are the rioters, the people who are there for, the purpose of destruction. That's not really good for anybody. And it seems that now we've gotten to the point whenever there's a protest, there's also a group of bad actors that are slipping in purposely to cause problems.
Opportunists. That's what I call it.
Yes,
They couldn't care less about the cause, but there's an opportunity for them to.
Right, like it's an innocent or even nonviolent protest. But then there's these agitators that get into it and they make the mess out of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. That's oversimplified.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, that's what I see too, not just as a law enforcement.
They take advantage of the situation and they twist it in their direction for their political cause when that's not the original source. And yet the media blames the original innocent people. Remember they say mostly peaceful protests? Do you remember that phrase that was used a lot last year? Yeah, there was like bricks being thrown through windows, but the media said mostly peaceful protests because they wanted to make it sound like, oh, this is all okay. It's okay. And I want to explain why, because that's what I've been instructed not to talk about, who's behind all this. Also, I'm going to comment on the defund the police nonsense too, because the way they talk about it on talk radio here is they say, people vote to defund the police, and then when some burglar comes to their house and they call the cops, there's nobody there because you asked to defund them. I mean, isn't that absurd?
Mm-hmm. You know what? I think the verbiage defund the police is it's really bad. It couldn't send a worse message,
Right.
because really what we want what we want to do is we want to reform what's going on in some police departments. And we want to empower them and train them to do, and give the expectation for them to do different things. So we were all talking about this CBS show this morning, and it was the cop he was the chief of police or something like that, and he was in a small town, right? And he approached his job as if it was a ministry. And even one of the people he arrested ended up being a part of his congregation. Now, does every single cop need to go down that route? No. But if you're valuing the people who you happen to be arresting, which actually can be service, I could be keeping you from doing the worst thing to yourself, right? Even if I'm arresting you. So being of service doesn't mean letting you off the hook. At the same time, it also means treating you with care while you're in my custody. So you shouldn't be getting abused in any type of way while you're in my custody. So I said all that to say this, Chief, what you have done just by being the magnificent leader that you are, is that you've created a foundation for a value added attitude, for treating people as if they're humans. And that's personally what I think is the missing ingredient. You know how some people say, oh my God, I make this recipe, but it doesn't taste like yours because you didn't put the love and the time into it. Chief,
Sure.
you have put the love and the time into policing, and that's the big deal.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. I wouldn't know how to do it any other way, to be honest with you.
Why can't everybody be like you then? You're the rare exception.
They should be better.
I
Just
want
like
to
I
say,
tell my kids, be better.
Can
Don't
they
like
be
me.
Time
Be better.
Magazine Police Chief of the Year? I mean, they have what, Celebrity of the Year or whatnot, or Sexiest Man Alive. Can they have Police Chief of the Year? No, because the media doesn't. Well, let's not go into that again. But I kept sending comments to Elisa about, can you create or have you created a program of good conduct for other police departments, or is no way that you're allowed to influence them?
I don't know that I'm not allowed to. I certainly have shared.
Yeah.
I certainly have traveled all over the country to talk about the things that we're doing and how we got there and what the steps were that were taken along the way, and things to obstacles that we had to overcome, and just, potential obstacles to be mindful of. But I can't force anybody at the end of the day, to do it. I've sat on more panels and commissions for the state and the federal government than I can.
Oh my God. Yes, you've done it already. Okay.
I've tried, but at the end of the day, the will has to be there with each respective organization. And I'm sure there are others out there that are doing the same or similar kinds of things that we are, but just don't get recognized, and maybe and that's okay. We don't do it for the recognition. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and we do it because it helps us maintain, strengthen, create, relationships with all aspects of our community. So sounds corny, but it's the truth.
You know what? At the end of the day, what we really, really want is for police officers to go home safe, and we want our citizens to go home safe.
That's
and
right.
That's right? And having quality police, really, better yet, having quality human beings in policing will do that.
And we want those folks to be okay, right? Whether they're in our care or not. And again, it saddens us to see people in different forms of duress, man, and knowing that perhaps in another day or 3 or 4, we're going to be dealing with that same person with that same issue. And that's one of the things that drives a lot of our initiatives and our programming is to just let's get off this merry-go-round. This is every 3 days. We know we're going to be at this person's house dealing with this issue. It gets to the point where you don't even need the address anymore, right? They can just give you the name and you know where to go and you know what's going on. And so let's try and address the core of that, not just so we don't have to keep answering this call, but so that we get that person to the right, to the appropriate service provider so that they can get better and they can, live a sound and a peaceful life as much as possible.
So I'm going to end this with my aha moment. It's not that I didn't have an inkling that this was important before, but my aha moment with great clarity was how much mental health care is connected to quality and safe policing. Like, we all need quality mental health care. Every citizen in America needs access to mental health care. It would make your job so much easier.
Yeah, yes, it sure would, and that's the reason why we work with NAMI. I haven't mentioned them yet, but NAMI was not, or historically hasn't been a huge proponent of our tactics.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Again, not to brag, but our state chapter recognized our agency as a law enforcement agency of the year because of the things that we're doing with our community action team and with our co-response model, which we stole from Denver. Or I shouldn't say stole. We requisitioned it, from Denver. So I like to give credit where it's due. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. The city of Denver came up with that concept, and I love it. I think it's phenomenal. So we're going to copy that as long as we can. And so not only that, but we've got a mental health facility that covers the entire region where our city is located. We have great partnerships with those folks, but you're right. There needs to be easier and broader access for anybody in a mental health crisis. I just got a call from a young man I've worked with for years who's working with a doctor who's writing a grant at the Bush Foundation to get to promote therapists of color for people of color. Because clearly, right, you can establish trust a lot faster. Some people can anyway, if it's somebody who looks like you or understands what you're going through, maybe better than someone else. So we're going to do what we can to help them get that thing up and running. Whatever we can do. Again, these aren't things, these issues, but if we can help facilitate, then we will, and we should. So
that's amazing. That is amazing. And I hate to say it, but the reason why you stood out, because that's not why you stood out, but there's not enough people doing what you're doing. There is not enough police officers or departments, the police departments that are actively seeking to partner with NAMI. So maybe that's a challenge. That's the next challenge I want to see, where police officers partner with mental health agencies to make it all better for everyone. So that's cool.
And you know what? And maybe there are more doing it than we know. So let's if we're going to assume the one, let's assume both, that maybe there are more than we know about. And they haven't been touted. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but maybe there's.
Maybe. How about this? Maybe. How about they become as effective as your organization is when they're doing it? So I'm not saying it's not a thought. I'm saying let's empower the movement. That's what I'm saying. Let's get it at the forefront. Let's make it more meaningful. Let's make it happen, because we just want it to be better, as you would say.
Yes, absolutely. Leave it better than you found it. And thank you.
All right. Listen,
I have a question about, since Chief Anderson is such the right influence in his department, I would hope that his record, like there'd be like very few police complaints. Like, does his overall department have a better record than the national, or do you even know? As far as being better officers that don't get in trouble, don't do anything wrong, like just better conduct and no complaints.
Yep. And so what you're looking for is the number of complaints that are sustained, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can make a complaint.
Right.
But all the time. They come in and literally fabricate, they make stuff up.
Oh, God.
So it's not the number of complaints, and even those are low for us, but it's the number of sustained complaints. And yes, I'm very pleased and very happy that the vast majority of complaints made against my officers are not sustained. And then the parts that are sustained are subjective things. It has nothing to do with brutality, has nothing to do with being abusive. Somebody just might not have liked the way they were spoken to. And so again, we're dealing with
a rating system? Is there like a rating system of police? Probably not, of police departments, where like you would have the highest rating for having the best behaved police department? I mean, because that's what I'm hoping it would be.
None that I know of. The best rating system we get is from our community. When we reach out, they reach back.
So if you get some publicity on this, like
they help us. So,
like there'd be a news article about how well your department is run, and it should be an example to other police departments, and it would be publicized somehow. Like who would want to write an article about that? I mean, pro police. Or do we have anybody in the media that wants to write a nice story about police? That's what we need.
There have been, believe me, there have been plenty about us.
Of nice articles.
I don't think we need a nice story about police. I think we need a nice story about his standards, because for me, that's what is really creating the outcomes. The reason why St. Cloud is doing well is because, I'm not trying to toot your horn. I just end up tooting your horn and saying this. It's because you created standards that people can look towards, that create value and honor. It's just like, okay, the chief believes that we should be good people first, and then we'll be good cops. The chief believes we should value people and we should honor people, and then we'll get good results. And so you have these standards that you've infused into every aspect of itself, of the police department itself. So in effect, it is self-policing. The atmosphere, the climate is about honor and integrity, about valuing in one another. And so they go out and they value people. So I'm sorry, Chief, 100%. It's your fault.
No,
you did it. It's your fault.
100%. Thank you.
Is there a National Association of Police Departments, like with an overall influence and control? Probably not, but and if there were, then you should be the leader of that.
Listen, I'm good where I'm at. I do. I appreciate the kind word, but I don't have a lot of time for some of the associations. I'm a member of a whole bunch of them, of Noble, of IACP, State Police Chiefs Association, and they all do great work in their respective lanes, whether it involves training or development, or pushing out some of these programs, like ours. We certainly use them to help publicize. They put on all kinds of trainings. I presented on this stuff at the international conference. So it finds its way. But again, at the end of the day, people, I can't force anybody to do it. But I have been given some great platforms, and I'll take some more because I am sincere about this. I want to share this with as many people and places as possible, because this can be done anywhere. There's no magic formula here.
Well, actually, there is a magic formula. It's just that you can share the recipe.
But they have to want to take it. What I want to ask is each police chief his own boss? Like, there's no boss of a police chief, right? I mean, like each department does it their way, and nobody else can say no, you can't do. Like, there's no federal agency to control police departments.
No, not for most things, but I mean, we all work for somebody. You
work for the state, or no, wait, the mayor? I guess the mayor.
I answer to the mayor in my city.
Yeah.
Some chiefs answer to their city administrator. Depends on the size or the form of government.
Yeah, but that's within your own city. I was wondering if there was like a national supervisory board for police departments, or maybe I should create one.
Yeah, I don't know that any of those exist because, again, each state has its own laws, and so
right.
Perhaps it's time for something like that.
Well, could you be the state leader of police departments or the state influencer for Minnesota? In other words, you would have more influence than anyone else over all police departments within Minnesota.
I'm doing my best, but
you're already trying to do that.
My primary responsibility is the city of St. Cloud and the citizens within those borders. Again, I'll share on any platform, but I can't make stuff.
Did you see on Kermit and Friends, someone said Chief Blair for president?
I did. I've seen it before.
That's the wrong job. Nobody should have to do that. Especially a nice person like you shouldn't be stuck with that job.
Not going to happen. Nope.
You get attacked from all sides.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the kindness, though, but not going to happen.
But you're right in the right position for yourself.
I can influence more sharing this stuff right here.
Oh, I know. My other question is, how long do you plan to still be the chief? Because you said you have a plan for the next 25 years to promote from within. Yes, how long do you think you'll still be the chief, or would you want to, or can you?
I'm not going to say that right now because then people stop listening to you.
Yeah. But as long as you can, you're in there for the long run, I guess.
I've been there 9 years already. It's been a pretty good.
That's like Seinfeld. That's about as long as it can go, right?
Well, that's pretty long for a chief. That's a long shelf life.
How long did they go? I mean,
I'll say this. It's just that I don't want you, even if you grow into being, or you move on from being chief of police, it's just that we don't want to be without your influence. And the reason why people are asking you about being president is because we want to spread your value. It has to go beyond what you're doing. The honor, integrity, the way that you're able to help other people understand how much character matters has to go beyond St. Cloud, because that's where it's at.
What's the next step up from police chief? I mean, I have no idea. Like, that's it. That's as high as you can go with what you do, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But what about state administrator of some sort? Like, you work for the city.
Yeah.
Could you get a state job where you'd have more influence?
Yeah, we have a public safety commissioner in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, that's, I guess, what I was
doing. That individual is part of the governor's cabinet. So every 4 years, if you get the governor in, you're looking for a job. So I try to stay away from the bureaucracy.
That's bureaucracy too, right? You actually
as much as I can. Yeah, because see, the best part about my job is I'm the guy that gets to say yes. This is what we're gonna do. I don't have to deal with the cabinet of folks. I don't have to deal with, the mayor and I are very close. We are like-minded on a lot of things. We talk about everything that goes on. But at the end of the day, I get the guy that gets to say, I get to be the guy that gets to say yes. And I don't have to go through a whole bunch of red tape and bureaucracy to implement a simple program, right? And I feel for my friends who work at those levels, and they do.
Yeah. The red tape bureaucracy
to do something simple. And I'm thinking, my God, you guys have wasted more time figuring out, who's going to finally say yes to do this than it would
paper pushers
implement the damn program. I mean, what in the world?
That happens with bureaucracy. So, Chief Blair, I'm going to have you back. Sidman,
yes.
I'm so happy that you stopped by, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for being on the show.